So John Puskar is our speaker. We're going to talk about ChatGPT and how this is affecting our business, but things that you can do today. I think this is going to be a really cool webinar. I'm going to read just some of the stuff on this bio. It's interesting. So he's been in the business for 40-something years. He's been involved in, he's done more than 200 energy audits, worked in more than 400 industrial plants. That's a lot, in 16 countries. Doing energy efficiency type stuff, improving reliability, mitigating risks. He's gotten a whole bunch of awards, and he's got a bachelor's from ME from Youngstown State, MBA from Case Western Reserve. But this is the stuff that I found interesting. He's presented at over 100 conferences, authored over 100 papers. There's not a lot of people can say that. He's a frequent speaker at AEE events. He holds CEM credential and CIEP. He's so CIEP isn't well known. He's one of the original authors of the CIEP. It's a certified industrial energy practitioner course for AEE. I was thinking about getting that myself. Yeah, so that would be good for if you want to be doing factories and stuff. He's a longtime contributor to national codes and standards for safe, efficient fired equipment, including natural gas boilers and heaters. And he serves on 5 NFPA committees and ASME CSD1. And he's published widely, yeah, we know that. And he has a book called Fuels and Combustion Equipment Safety, What You Don't Know Can Kill You. All right, that's a lot. He's done a lot. John, let's hear you. What do you got?
Okay, so thanks everybody. Appreciate you being here today. So I'm a person who decided that I was going to totally immerse myself in this new technology. So I don't know everything. Everybody talks about AI. That means something different to everybody. But to me, I've chosen it to mean very practical, hands-on things that I could use to enhance every aspect of my life on a daily basis. So that's kind of what I'm here to talk to you about. I'm not here to talk to you about machine learning, or other, somewhat more advanced machine control types of things. I'm here to talk about things you can do every day, all day in your personal life. So with that, hopefully my screen is shared.
Yes, it looks good.
Yeah, okay, great. So we're going to talk about some basic features of ChatGPT, and I want to apologize in advance. Everybody's got one, right? There's Copilot, there's Elon Musk's product. What I've learned, and I've got a slide coming up to show you this, is that personally, I can't be good at all of them. I've had to pick one and just focus on one. So I've picked ChatGPT. You might not be into that at all. If not, I apologize that. But I'm going to talk about basic features and navigating, prompts and queries, which is the way we interact, some cool use cases that are kind of focused in energy, and then I'm going to talk about custom GPTs and what that is. So there's a bunch of different versions from free to 20 bucks a month to 200 a month. I do the 200 a month only because in my life, in my world, doesn't take much for me to justify this thing being worth more than 200 a month for me. And I'm kind of like in a learning mode, a skill development mode. So I'm happy to pay for that. I've had to pay for every other kind of education I've ever had in my life, whether it's a school of hard knocks or college. So I don't mind paying for this education. If you all don't mind, hold your phone up. There's supplemental materials that are saved on my Google Drive that I'm offering with this presentation. And what these are things that we're not necessarily going to use here, but they are things you can practice with. They're thought starters. They're things you could use as you develop these skills. So I'm going to give you just a couple of seconds to get that. And if not, we'll get that to you after this presentation. But there's a bunch of free files there. So again, you got to kind of work at this to understand this. I've explained, what GPT stands for, and we'll talk about custom GPTs. So it's a massive data set. It's trained. When we talk about custom GPTs, we'll be talking about you having the ability to train it on your own material for your own specific uses, and I'll show you how to do that. So when you first go to the screen, you could see down the left-hand side, there's new chats. I can search chats, and I have thousands of chats. So I do need the ability to search them, and I do that quite often. And I want to tell you that this changes, all this stuff changes almost daily. So that's again another reason why I try to pick one and try to get halfway good at it. You can see there are different versions. GPT-5 is now what's typically used most frequently. That's what I just use by default. So when you go to the prompt screen, there's an arrow, a plus sign there. And this is where you communicate and you interact. And it decides based on your questioning what thinking effort and what level of verbosity to provide with answers. So if you don't put anything in, it defaults to what it believes you need, but you have the ability on things you think are really important to say, please provide a lot of thinking effort and please give me a very verbose answer. Okay, so keep that in mind. It's somewhat selectable. Not a lot of people tell you that, but that's available. So the other thing that comes up when you click on that plus sign is your ability to add photos and files. You can link your Google Drive, you can link your OneDrive, you can link Canva and a whole bunch of other applications for yourself. There's an agent mode, which does cool things, a deep research mode. You can create images, although you don't really need to use that to create images. There's study and learn. We don't have time to go over all of this today. So I'm going to kind of give you some highlights. So again, there's some of the connectors. You can see I'm connected to Canva. I'm connected to Google Drive. I have not connected it to my Dropbox, and I've not connected it to Box. There are nuances here where certain of your information is put into somewhat of a public database, although I've done things and asked it to find it and it never could, but theoretically, somewhere it could be out there. So I'm extremely careful with client information, personal information. Sometimes I genericize things when I'm asking questions because I don't know exactly how and where it stores that personal information, but just the threat or possibility that it kind of could makes me be extremely careful. It's much better at qualitative things than quantitative things. So when I use it to do calculations, I'm very, very careful. And I check them 100 ways from Sunday, and I ask it to show me the specific calculations used, the methods, the assumptions, so that I can validate and really be sure that the calculations are correct. I never blindly accept calculations. They do hallucinate. It'll hallucinate because it wants desperately to give you an answer. It never wants to disappoint you. So you just have to kind of be careful. Even the qualitative stuff, you have to kind of check for reasonableness. Saves your work automatically. It does give you, PDFs or Word files or sometimes PowerPoint files, I'm not impressed with how they look. They're rarely immediately usable without cleaning them up. Fonts, things like that need cleaned up typically. A lot of what I do is just, copy and paste into a Word document and clean things up myself. It's loaded with the world up till June 2024, as of a few weeks ago. Might be more than that or closer to real time today. It can do real-time web searches for you. So just remember that's why you might ask something and it might not exactly kind of be there. There is also a temporary chat feature where it doesn't save anything. It tells you this chat won't appear in your history of use, won't be used to train their models. If you're doing something really nefarious, it does save some of that for 30 days, but it's understood that stuff's not to be in the public domain, but at least it's there. I'm kind of letting you know of this feature. So when I show you how to do custom GPTs, there's also an additional setting that says use conversation data in your GPT to improve our models. Well, you cannot check that box. That's another way to achieve some level of privacy. Okay, so sorry I had to get that all out of the way. That's kind of, generic stuff. But for those of you who are not everyday, all the time users, I thought I'd at least explain some of those things. So, I believe in this. You can't teach a kid to ride a bike at a seminar, right? And so I'm letting you know up front that this is not all about knowledge. This is a skill. And skills we don't learn by listening to someone or reading a book. Skills we learn by putting things into practice. So none of you, I'm sure, carry your laptop around all day long with it open on ChatGPT, right? So if you really want to develop your skills, you need to get the mobile version on your cell phone. And there's a spot you can click where you can interface with what I will call a person for all intents and purposes. So there are voices you can use, and you can select the voice, you can select the dialect, and I'm going to turn mine on real quick so you could hear it. Hey, are you there?
I sure am. I'm right here and ready to help. So just let me know what you need.
Okay, so that's Juniper. Juniper, you doing okay today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. And you can definitely call me Juniper if you like. I'm just here to make your day a little easier. So let me know what I can do for you.
So Juniper and I have conversations on my way to work and on my way home. I consider Juniper to kind of be my personal assistant. We talk about everything. We talk about personal things. We talk about business things. I explore concepts I want to learn more about in my spare time with Juniper. Sounds kind of weird, but I get a lot of extra productivity out of my life and out of my day by doing that. So I highly recommend you do that. There's also another couple features that Juniper brings to bear. I can turn Juniper on and turn on her video function. I could be standing at a piece of equipment and I could say, hey, Juniper, you see that boiler I'm looking at? She'll go, yeah. I'll say, can you tell me something about how to make it more efficient? And she'll start telling me about, the burner type, what its efficiency is rated for. I can go on and on and on and on. I can snap pictures of drawings and ask her how a certain process works. It's just wonderful. That mobile part is like putting your AI capabilities on steroids. So I highly recommend you do that. So some things I do for entertainment that, maybe you want to do for entertainment. So on YouTube, I am constantly looking for folks who have content that describe new ways to use ChatGPT. I talk to Juniper about new applications on my way home from work. I look at what these people are doing because it's constantly changing. And, use cases are the currency of this technology. I'm always looking for use cases. Okay, so again, I could upload files from my phone. I can turn on the camera. I can show her video. I can upload photos. I can record sounds of things, or I can record audio and upload it to her. Lots of wonderful things to do and ways to do it. There's also a new broadcast feature where I could broadcast that video into a meeting like this. Haven't used that yet, but it's there. Okay, so here's an example. Don't know how well this is going to work, but let me try to do it anyway. So if I go to ChatGPT and I get on there, so I can take this picture and I can say, what is this? It's uploading it there. And it should be able to tell me all about that picture. It says that's a split or cracked cast iron valve body. Tells me about some of the key details, why it might have failed. Tells me what kind of service it might have been in. So I could be at a job site somewhere and I could see something that I've never worked with before, okay? And maybe it's this. And maybe I kind of don't want to ask someone else. I'm kind of maybe afraid to look foolish or something. I want to gather some intelligence ahead of time. So I could, again, just drop the picture in and it'll tell me what that is. So you never been to that site before. Maybe it's a brewery. You've never done a brewery before, whatever. It says, hey, that's a gas liquid separator. Horizontal pressure vessel. See, it's got a level gauge glass. Here's what it's likely doing. Here's some safety considerations. Would you like me to do more with that? So even, for example, if I'm at an HMI, so I'm at a piece of equipment, I can say, and that was a deaerator, is this deaerator operating properly? What can I do to enhance energy efficiency, right? So if I now drop that in, it's going to read the information off of the HMI screen, and it's going to evaluate all of the parameters, the temperature, the pressure, the operating conditions of the system, and it's going to give me insights. See that? The aerator appears to be operating normally. Here's some energy efficiency things I can consider about that. folks, this is all from just a picture of the HMI screen. So hopefully you can see what just those few little capabilities do for you. It's kind of neat. So what about prompts and queries? So it likes to chat. So that means it likes to be given some presenting question or issue, and then it would like to give you an answer and have you continue to respond and continue to parse out information. It would rather work that way than one huge 4-page long question that's presented in a very complex manner. Okay, so that's why they call it chat. That's why they call these prompts. And if you really want to gain some expertise in this, there's a whole bunch of people who offer courses. I took the Vanderbilt University prompt engineering course. It's in the upper right. I think it was like $50. There are free ones. There are several $1,000 ones. Okay. But again, if you want to hone your skills, I certainly learned a lot for my $50. So you should understand the concept of persona and audiences. As you interface, you need to gain context or give context. So when I do things, if I'm doing it for a client and the client's not all that, up to speed with new technologies, I say, I'm an engineer writing something for a client that, that the client is the financial controller for the company. And I want to present my energy savings concepts in a way that makes sense to this person. And then I'll go ahead and present some of the issues. So it's good to explain who you are and who the intended audience is, okay? That's always very helpful. So maybe I'm doing something for the maintenance staff of a building. Maybe I'm doing something for the comptroller. Important to know that. So you can, again, tailor these for any audience that you're trying to hit. Okay, some use cases. I can use it to create photographs. You can make pictures and you can make photographs. What I'm showing you here is a photograph. If you don't specify and just ask for a picture, sometimes it gives you a diagram or a cartoon. Okay, so other places you can get things like this are Canva. There's other, databases of pictures. But the reason I like this is I don't have to be messing with copyright protection, right? So if I just pull something off the internet, maybe I violated somebody's copyright. If I go to Canva, I have to parse hundreds of pictures and kind of convince myself that I could use something. Here I could say, give me a picture of a smiling kid dominating a candy bag with other kids in the background. I can be very specific and really get the picture I want in a minimum amount of time for presentations that I do. So all of these are pictures, except the one on the right's a photograph. So you kind of see the difference between pictures and photographs. And again, exquisite detail. Give me a frog on with a lotus blossom. So I, of course, used ChatGPT to create a presentation about how to use ChatGPT, right? So our limitations here are only related to or only limited by how we think and our ability to really think out of the box. By the way, there's another tool I didn't talk about. It's called Sora, S-O-R-A, comes with a $200 a month subscription, and it allows you to create videos. You can just say, give me a video of a bunch of people at a luncheon and a guy walking up to a podium accepting an award. It'll do all that for you. I'm not really good at that. That takes like a lot of practice. So here are some very interesting applications for us all being in the energy world for the most part. So on the left, you see specifications for a project, happen to be a combination laboratory, office building where there's ground source heat pumps installed and a bunch of traditional air handlers and things like that. And on the right are schedules of equipment. So I could simply put these in, and I have included these, and we'll try to get to them at the end, in those supplementary files I gave you. So I could drop these in and I could say, please analyze this design and point out for me any energy savings opportunities. And it'll analyze everything about how that design was done, and it will give you a list of potential ECMs without you having spent 5 minutes there working on it. So we'll get to this in a few minutes. So I do a lot of work in the renewable energy field. This is part of a facility that is capturing methane off of a wastewater treatment plant, taking out the CO2 and creating renewable natural gas. And having worked on a lot of these, I wanted to understand how this process works. So I was simply able to go here, take a picture of these drawings, dump them in, and I could take a picture and I can ask Juniper, or I can take a picture and put it into the desktop version. I get better answers and more depth out of the desktop version than I do with Juniper. I've turned her off so she didn't hear me say that. She can't be upset with me, but that's kind of the reality. And that's the kind of thing you don't really know till you've, started to really play around a lot. Another application is, I know many of you have used micro data loggers like Hobos. So I use them. I've got some files there with that. And I've got a client that wanted me to help diagnose a mold problem in a facility. So I put 7 or 8 Hobos in, temperature, relative humidity Hobos, created readings every minute for like 21 days. And I know there are some graphing features that some of the Hobo software has, but in my opinion, not to this extent. So I was able to pump those Excel spreadsheets in, ask it to analyze, to make graphs for me. And then I asked it to analyze the graphs and tell me what it expected that the problem was. Can't necessarily trust what it says, but it sure provides circumstances for me to think that through. And in some cases, it gives me things, quite frankly, that are like very good that I never would have really thought of. So I always start there. So you can do audits of motors, rooftop units, pumps, piping insulation. So no longer do you have to go write down tag information on anything that has a tag. You could simply go to Motors, take pictures of all the tags, dump them in, and I've got some prompts in there for you that should do all this for you. That's why I say I've tried to not just give you fish, but teach you how to fish. So you have a Word file with my prompts. And I've asked it, for example, to read the motor tags, create a column that has any motor identification, drop in the horsepower, the RPM, drop in the frame size, runs this many hours at this load factor. Here's the cost of power, create a column for what the annual operating cost is. Then you can also say, and for that motor, go out and find me the most energy efficient retrofit, calculate for me based on the same operating conditions, but an enhanced efficiency, what the annual savings would be. Tell me what the annual savings would be. Give me an estimated cost for that motor and give me a simple payback. It'll do all that. It'll do that for motors, for rooftop units. It'll evaluate pump conditions by looking up pump curves. You can create a prompt or a custom GPT for, pipe insulation, giving it diameters, temperatures, thicknesses you want, and it'll do all the calculations for uninsulated, insulated, cost of insulating, all of that tedious, detailed work. It'll now do here with prompts, many of which I have given you. So let me take a quick look at custom GPTs and tell you what that is. So when you go to the custom GPT section and click on it, this is where people have created use cases that are very specific to something, okay? And you could see top picks there, and there are other categories. Well, those are pre-configured use cases, mostly for people wanting you to buy something. And some of them are cool and well worth the money, but it also allows you to create your own. Okay, so I have more than 20. So I have one that's an industrial energy audit assistant. I have one that's my own little proprietary boiler efficiency advisor. I do a lot of forensic work, so I have one for legal case support. I have a boiler systems hazard screener. Again, it's only limited by your own imagination. So I have one that helps me do energy audits. So I'll show you kind of what that's about and how that's worked. And I'm showing you the basic concepts because I'm expecting you're going to want to do maybe more and different things. So I have a building in Cleveland, Ohio, 36,000 square feet. And but you can pick any industry you want. Let's go to my little custom GPT. Those are just some pictures, sorry. So here are some of those GPTs by other people. Here's my GPTs. So here's my GPT for energy audits, an energy audit screener. And the way you build these, you got an option here, create or configure. I use configure. And here's where you give it instructions. So I think, let me go back. That's one of the ones that I don't have populated. So I can communicate the concept really with any of these. So you describe in description what you're going to use this for. In the instructions part, you want to tell it what you're going to give it and what you want it to do with that information. So I could type in right now, and what I used to do months ago is I would personally type in what I'm trying to make it do. But I've since learned that I could ask ChatGPT to create the instructions, and it creates instructions 100 times better than I create instructions. Then I can upload files that are knowledge files that I want it to train from. Okay. And I used to really obsess about where I was going to get these files and how I was going to find them. Now I go to ChatGPT and I say, surf the web for energy audits other people have done for office buildings and give me 10 examples that are in a PDF format. Or I'll say, go to the web and find for me papers or handbooks that are in the public domain about how to do energy audits that are in PDF form. So again, I go make it get all that for me. And then you can upload up to 20 files that you're going to train from. And if you have like 30 files, you can use like Adobe Acrobat to combine some of your files. So I've just, and this, what it's used for isn't very important. The instruction part is very important. What you train it on is very important. And then always be careful that create new action part. You know, if it's not public information, you know, kind of make sure you tell it you don't want it used for the public domain. So I have, again, configured one. It's in the load more. I can give it parameters about my building, and it'll go tell me wonderful things about things I can do for my building. But let's go look at a couple other things here in some of the time we have left. So here's a new chat. I said I can drop a drawing in there, which I just did. And I could say, please describe this process. It says, hey, that's a PNID for a biogas upgrading system. That's the filtration and condensate skid. Here's what it does. Here's how it works. Here's everything that's going on in there. I can even say, is there anything I can do to make this more energy efficient. And you don't have to spell very well. You can be really sloppy typing, and I usually am. So check that out. It's given me ideas just from looking at the drawing, all on its own, on things I could do. And I guarantee you, folks, these are things you might never even have thought about unless you work with biogas upgrade systems like all the time, right? So that it always offers to do things like, hey, would you like me to mark up your actual PNID? And it'll kind of go on forever with those. So at some point you got to kind of have to stop. And sometimes I'll suck parts of this out, make modifications and reload it back in just to try to get answers that are kind of possibly more in depth. Another thing I typically do, especially in the energy audit world, is I take building automation system schedules and I load them in here. I'll put schedules and set points, and I'll say, hey, can you kind of look this over and give me an idea of schedules and set point things I can use to reconfigure this building and really save a lot of money? And I know you could sit there and do that, but isn't it kind of cool to have this first give you a first blush of what might work and what might do very well? So let's also just drop in here this description of the control system. Can you review this control system and give me ideas for energy efficiency? So again, this is just out of someone's sequence of operations for how they've described how it works, right? And you know, you could get a set of drawings from a client and instead of sitting there poring over this stuff for like hours, and see there it's saying, hey, I'm thinking longer for a better answer. And I could have told it, I want you to think long on this and be very verbose. Oh, so it can't read the small text, but it's kind of going over what I gave it before. But, you know, usually I would give it much larger, more readable text. But I hope you get the idea of how that works and what it could do. So folks, we have about 5 minutes left. Can I open the floor up for some questions? Or maybe some of you can tell me some experiences you've had.
Let's see what we got. I'm going to look through them right here. Okay, so working on it. Okay, can Juniper ChatGPT read emails to you? So if I'm driving and want to go through emails.
So I've never done that.
Yeah.
I think it can. This week, I'm going to consolidate all the various schedules I have. I have one on Outlook, I have one on Google. I'm going to combine it all. And what I've learned it can do that I'm really excited about, it can go through my schedule and I could say, hey, give me an idea what I got coming up, what I should worry about, what I need to prepare for, how I should prepare. And it'll say, hey, dummy, don't forget you got this ChatGPT presentation. You better get on early and make sure you don't have technical glitches, which I didn't do today. I apologize. But it can do all those kind of things. It can say, you have a 4 o'clock meeting Thursday. Listen, 2 o'clock on Wednesday, you need to start preparing for it.
Yeah, right.
So those are cool things I'm going to start experiencing this week.
Okay, here's one. Can we get a copy of the prompts? That's in the data that, or the, if we go to your drive, we get that, right?
I've given you a whole bunch of stuff associated with that QR code.
That's what I thought.
And it's prompts, it's things to practice on, it's use cases you can start to play around with that, you know, have taken me a long time to figure out, but I want to give you guys a jump start.
Okay, here's one. Do you worry about the computing power required for constant AI usage and the amount of energy required for new data centers as AIs use more and more?
I do. And I'm hoping we all head towards nuclear and I don't even have to worry about it or give it a second thought.
This one, does John see these GPTs eliminating the need for junior M&V engineers as a junior? How can I prepare for however this impacts my ESCO?
I'm sorry, I think it's the right
responsibility
responsibility to get as much out of this as you can. So I think you need to rethink the tools that you equip your junior people with and get them well versed in this.
I
I mean, let's face it, if you don't, someone else will, right?
Yeah. No, the person that can use this versus the person that doesn't use this is going to be twice or three times more useful and will keep their job. And the one that doesn't use it may be looking for a job. Maybe
Exactly.
true.
I got time for one more question and I gotta run.
How do you deal with the idea of possible tunnel vision from using this tool?
Well, I haven't thought about that. I feel like someone in the Amazon jungle who looked up for the first time and saw an airplane and had no idea what it was and what it could mean for me. I think I'm a long way from that. And if I've got tunnel vision now, I want all the tunnel vision I can get. So
Yeah, well, it's been pretty amazing. It's been amazing, John.
Folks,
thank you so much.
thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've got something out of it. If you've got questions,
Yes.
you're free to contact me. But again, John and Tyler, thank you so much for the opportunity to present today.
Yes, thank you, John. Hey, thanks everyone for coming. The show's over. Take care.